This
Present.
conference will now be recorded.
Uh-oh. Do you want me to redo it? I felt like that went well. Okay, moving on. Let's take a look at the agenda. And somebody can make a motion if we're all satisfied with it.
It looked like it doesn't have us approving the last meeting's minutes. Is that right?
Yes, it does say that. It's not on there. So let's amend the agenda to include our approval of the minutes.
My apologies and thank you.
Someone's a lot closer to the train than I am.
I will move to approve the Planning Commission meeting for August 12th as presented.
With the changes that you recommended.
Yes.
Yes.
I will second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's take a look at the minutes.
I'm sorry, you guys are catching me just screwing up by the numbers here. Those are the wrong minutes.
Okay. And they're not in the packet, obviously. So I guess we can.
Well, I can
let's
bring them up for you.
Okay, if you can pull them up, that would be fine for me. I can see it. Can everybody read the screen?
Yeah.
Nice.
Murphy's alive and well. This usually takes about a nanosecond, and it's going to be stubborn tonight.
Doesn't look like they're on the internet either. So
no, hang on. I have to access my full screen. Hang on. Darn it.
we can just approve of them next time.
There you go.
I will move to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes from July 8th, 2020 as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so I guess what is the second item under housekeeping? I guess I didn't read it close enough. Is that just the standard update, or are you going to read something to us, John?
No, it's the mayor's report.
Okay.
But again, I'm just extremely embarrassed at the moment.
Well, no worries.
So on the July 28th meeting of the city council, of note to some of you guys, there's a lot of interest in our wooden script, and right now the only thing we can do with it is give it to people as part of our grant program, and we can redeem it from the merchants when the merchants present it for redemption. At this point in time, the only pieces of script that were redeemed was an actual grant recipient came back into City Hall and said, I want to give these 4 pieces of script back to you because I want to apply it as a credit to my utility account. So I had to redeem those 4 pieces of script. All the other pieces of script that have been issued, and to date that's been about $8,400 worth, has not come back to us. So the city said, we're going to stand behind $10,000 worth of script, and 3 months into our program, the only script that has been presented for redemption has been from a grant recipient themselves. You can speculate on what's going on there. I choose to believe the rumor that some folks are selling their script on the secondary market for a lot more than $25 a share, so to speak.
I
And that's
administer
okay.
the chamber website, and I get a lot of people looking to buy the money, and where can I get the money? Like every day, like several emails.
I'm having the same experience, and we've got a standard set response that I've developed. That's, sorry, it's not for sale. You have to be a grant participant. Can't tell you who the grant participants are, but here's a list of the businesses that take them. If you can
Yeah.
make an arrangement with that business owner, great.
Yeah.
Because our view is, once we have issued the script to the grant recipient, it accomplished its intended purpose. We've given the grant recipient some relief from the COVID-19 or the effects of the COVID-19, and so we know that some of it's being used at merchants here in town, which again was the intent, and the merchants are accepting it. They're happy with it, and I kind of hope I don't get any more requests for redemption, because that means people will have gotten the value out of it and it won't have cost the city that much. So
Yeah.
I think it's a win all the way around.
It is kind of interesting that.
Yeah. Well, we created value out of nothing, and we added $10,000 worth of value to the local economy without having expended it. I mean, that's just, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
And the reason I belabored that is we are looking at revising the ordinance so that we can have other disposition with that. That's really all that happened at the July 28th meeting. At last night's meeting, the city council approved to set aside $31,107 in 2021 for a project that will rebuild Ritter Street from the intersection of Sussex 4th and Sussex and Ritter Street south to where Ritter intersects with Park Avenue. So that whole length, just a little bit shy of 1/10 of a mile, would receive an all-new road surface. It would receive curbs, gutters, and sidewalk on the west side of the street. There would be a bioswale on the east side of the street to control runoff, a 4-foot shoulder on the east side of the street. And while we have the street ripped up, our intent is to replace the water mains underneath there. That will come out of water capital improvement funds. So that's a city only funded project. And then we've approached Puget Sound Energy, and Puget Sound Energy has a program. They call it a Schedule 74 program, and it's a matching program. They pay 60%, the city pays 40%, and what it would do is take the overhead electrical distribution lines and place them underneath the ground.
What?
So
I want that.
yeah, that, you know, so really excited about those possibilities. 31,000 is our grant match portion. What we're talking about is a Transportation Improvement Board, TIB, Small City Arterial Program, or SCAP grant. The total amount of that grant is just a tad over 600,000. 30,000 of it is ours. We've already run the numbers. It'll cost us 127,000 to replace the water mains as part of the project. And again, that comes out of existing city water capital improvement funds. So the only unknown there is what it would cost to underground the electrical transmission lines. Whatever it costs, the city will bear 40% of it. Again, we've already got the streets ripped up, so some of the costs that would normally be incurred won't be incurred. We just see it as a really, you know, it's a true complete streets project from start to finish. And once it's done, we think that would serve as the model for the other sections of roadway through town that Director Cannon has identified on the 6-year street program as being priority work. So, you know, keep your fingers crossed. We hope we get that grant. If we don't get the grant, obviously we won't execute.
Is the streets program on the website or no? Probably not.
I'm sorry, the street what?
The streets program, Troy's program for the next 6 years.
It is. You can go onto the city website. There's a link, I think it's on the left-hand side, that something about publications. Just follow the publications link until you get to resolutions. Resolutions, look in the year 2020, and the 6-year street plan will be in that folder. Kind of awkward, but it makes sense. What you do it once or twice, you'll have it down. You won't even have to think about it.
Okay.
And that really was the substance of last night's meeting as well. So that and the fact that Chief Swain wickered a deal with the Lewis County Sheriff's Office to use their jail facilities. Right now, the 2 tribal jails that we normally use are both closed. They're not accepting any clients. An odd way to say inmates. And Thurston County will not take anyone that Tenino takes into custody unless it is a felony. And that's a challenge because in a lot of domestic violence situations, we have to take someone into custody and we have to do something with them. So what Bob chose to do is take a run at Lewis County and see if they would allow us to take them down there, and they will. So that's what we're going to do once we get the contract signed. That's the mayor's report.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John. No public comment. No public present. We've gone through our reports. No hearing tonight. No unfinished business. Now we have the new business. Dan, are you going to talk about this, or John?
Yeah, I can. Did everyone have a chance to look at the staff report on this item?
I did.
And how about John, did was the title report and the map, was the title report and the map included in that packet?
I don't recall if I sent the map out or not.
So I may want to try to. Can you hand the screen over to me and let me share that? It'll make a lot more sense if I show the parcel map.
Absolutely. Hang on.
He's got control issues, so ordinarily this doesn't work.
You should be able to do take control now.
You have controls. I think you have to make me the presenter.
You're right. Hang on.
So while John's pulling that up, if you looked at the
You
staff,
have it now.
yeah, this is
Share screen now.
it's a pretty straightforward thing. We've done this one other time. The city council has an ordinance that allows for lots to be split if they've been combined previously and they want to split them back out in the same way they were before. So are you seeing this this lot split diagram here? It's corner of Sussex and MacArthur. It's three pretty tiny little houses on three tiny little lots. And let me zoom in here. So, and this is an interesting one. Maybe, well, I'll just talk about it. And the recommendation from staff is to approve the lot split. And the rationale is there in the staff report. I'm happy to read through that if I need to. But the interesting thing about this one, I'll just mention this and then maybe come back to that staff report in a moment, is that there are lot lines that cross this. If you remember some of our previous training, we talked about, you know, not liking to see this, and this is what would be called a non-conforming lot, right? Because you've got this lot line between parcel 2 and parcel 3 that splits this shed or garage structure along the back, right? And so I had her order title, the property owner's representative order title, so I could read the title report to make sure that there was an easement on that, and there is. And not only is there an easement on so that lot 3's garage that extends onto lot 2, that they can continue to access it, but if you'll notice, like back in the day, the septic tanks crossed the
that's
parcel.
weird.
So I think what happened back in the 50s or 60s, whenever this was done, is lot 3 was the first home, and their septic tank was to the left of their garage, you know, to the north of their garage, and then they decided they wanted to split the lot, and they subdivided it and added that lot number 2 into it and built a house, but they couldn't put the septic system in the backyard because there was already a septic system in the backyard for them. And so then they crossed it over to the other side. So fortunately, they're all on sewer now. We don't really need to worry about that. I don't know whether those septic tanks were decommissioned. I am assuming they are. But this in particular was mostly a combination for tax purposes. You'll see that it's very, very common. People want to get one tax bill instead of 3 or 4. So if there's multiple parcels that are contiguous, they can request from the assessor's office that those be combined, and that's essentially what has happened here. They're asking for those to be split back out. So that's what you have in front of you there. She went through the process and issued her statement of confirmation of the findings via email. So I've got that as an exhibit, and staff would recommend approval of lot split. So I can take whatever questions you have here. I kind of laid out the background of that, and there haven't been any substantive changes since that split occurred. So I'm happy to take whatever questions you might have or make myself available during discussion.
I don't really have any questions.
Yeah, I don't really have any questions either. I read the report. It seems like they've done everything that they need to do, and they're within the guidelines to do it.
Yeah, same. It seems pretty straightforward to me. No questions either.
Same here.
So I guess I'll move to approve the lot split application that would restore the original legal descriptions for lots 1, 2, and 3 as per tax parcel 74902001700.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nice, that was easy. Is that all that we have?
That's all we have for official business. I've got a series of reports I can update you on.
Okay. Yeah.
Some other stuff if you'd like.
Yeah, I would like that. Thank you.
Okay. I brought up here the scope of work for the effort on the Shoreline Master Program. So I wanted to provide an update on that piece. You'll recall that you had a briefing on this, had the opportunity to kind of hear about some of the goals and policies and the language within the SMP that Rachel shared with you. So we're kind of in this phase 4 plan development stage. We're about halfway through this 1.2 goals, policies, and amendment compliance, and working on the existing shoreline review. That's this language in here. So the master plan is being updated using the checklist. Do I need to make it a little bit bigger? Sorry. You can see Alex peering into my soul. So so that's where we're at. We're kind of in between 1.3 and 2.1 there, working on the shoreline, the best available science, as well as looking at the goals, policies, and guidelines of the SMA to make sure they're addressed by that RCW and vice versa. We use the checklist on a regular basis. Rachel will bring that back. She tells me she has a stakeholder outreach meeting or a Zoom call based on the doodle poll, a Zoom call sometime in the next week or so with regulatory agencies. So that's ecology, tribes, and she's just putting the call out. Once it's coordinated, she'll kind of do a briefing of those stakeholders and see if there's any outstanding issues that they'd like us to incorporate into the SMP. And she says at your next meeting, which I believe is 9th of September, you should be able to see an initial red line draft, kind of strike through, underline for review. So that is the update on the SMP progress. Are there questions on that at all?
No. I received an invitation to the doodle poll. I haven't responded yet, but is it okay if anybody else who's interested signs up as well?
Well, I think we want to be careful we don't have a quorum. I'd say other than that.
Good point. Good point. Good point. Okay.
Maybe how many members do we have? We have 4 members.
That's correct.
Yeah, John, is 2 a majority if we have 4?
No, 3 is a majority. Because the quorum is of the regular positions.
Okay.
I mean, you have a quorum. Any way you slice it, you got a quorum tonight.
True, but on a call where we were hearing from the agencies on the SMP, 2 planning commissioners could attend without being subject to public noticing.
Yes, I'm sorry. You're correct. 2 is the maximum number of commissioners that could be on an event without being in danger of having a quorum. You know, more than 2, you could, you know, it's just like being in a physical room. If there's some discussion going on and 2 members of a governing body are sitting at as members of the panel, and another member of the governing body is sitting in the audience, that doesn't make it a quorum automatically. if that person sitting in the audience starts putting in their 2 bits, then you have an OPMA violation, Open Public Meeting Act violation. But as long as they're just sitting in the audience listening and not participating in the discussion, then you don't have an OPMA violation.
Ah,
It's best to be safe by limiting the number to 2 regardless, but you know, it's like everything else, it depends.
Right, so as long as we only have 2 members there, that's fine. So if, Will, if you're gonna attend that, I'll leave it up to you to figure out who else would want to be potentially on that call.
oh, excellent. Anybody? What are people offering for this empty slot? Does anybody really want to do it?
Can you
No.
describe again what the event is?
Yeah, now it's built
go ahead.
up so big, it's gonna be hard to tamp down the expectations, but it's a call with regulatory agencies, Department of Fish and Wildlife, Department of Ecology, tribes, on their interests in seeing certain things in the SMP. So they'll probably just, it's probably going to be somewhat dry and routine for them. It might be interesting for us, but it'll just include what they are expecting to see and asking our planners to make sure we put into the SMP.
So, basically, people from different agencies that might be impacted by our decisions in regard to the plan. So,
correct, right. So they may say things like, you'll want to make sure to include,
right,
a reference to X, Y, or Z. It's kind of a expeditious way to go about the best available science approach, because they'll bring it to our attention. So,
right.
Well,
okay. Well, oh, go ahead.
The answer to Corey's question is the event is a public meeting that is part of the outreach program for our shoreline master plan development. So the event is a required event, and the people that were invited are considered stakeholders, or people that have an interest in, as Dan said, the subject matter at hand. Agency outreach. There you go.
Well, I don't know I don't think the date has been selected for the meeting quite yet on the doodle poll. So once I get it, I'll send that info to John, and maybe he can send it out to everybody. And if anyone really wants to participate, just send me an email or something.
Sure.
all right, we'll do that. So that is the SMP. The other thing, and this is, we can dive into this as much as you want, as much as people would like, but Puget Sound Energy sent us a request for comments on their regional habitat conservation plan for prairie species, particularly Mazama gopher. So I think I have that up here, and it is 231 pages of delightfully compelling information, but they just issued it. And it's kind of, I kind of glanced through it just to be fully transparent. I didn't read a lot of it. I looked at, there's a lot of references to 9.0 about 82. That's what I was doing up there. You can kind of see that all throughout the document. It doesn't help that, they keep calling it the Tenino subspecies. So anytime they do that, it's going to, pop up your name. But there is a section here, I'm going to scroll through here, that that does include Tenino and talks about a habitat conservation mitigation site north of Tenino. So we can look at that if that's of interest to you. Anyway, the other interesting thing as we look through this is John and I are working on a grant application. Well, we're working on, and we'll work through John on a grant application to the State Department of Fish and Wildlife for a Tenino-based habitat conservation plan. I think we've talked about previously that their staff and their regional leadership are supportive of the city having its own HCP for the Mazama Paca gopher. So it is interesting to look at the contents of this HCP that is pretty fresh, and you know, granted it's from PSC, so it's a lot broader scope and scale than ours would be, but just to see what's kind of expected. So I'll go to I'll try to find some of the maps in here. So this one's kind of interesting in that it does a good job talking about the subspecies for the pocket gopher. I don't know if any of you have seen any of this stuff before, but I think it is interesting mostly that, you know, the Yelm one is all throughout Lacey, Yelm, and Tenino. And Teninos are actually north of Tenino, up towards like Scott Lake kind of area. Is that not big enough? Sorry, I'm seeing.
Oh, I can see it.
Let's see. That's kind of interesting. This is the other thing I think is worth talking about. Here you'll see the city of Tenino. If you can see that my little marker here. And the conservation site is kind of up Old Highway 99 in this little red spot. So I think they're working on it's a 5-acre site, and they haven't fully purchased it. They have it under option, according to some of the documentation later in the HCP. But that's where see what happens is you have to have a conservation site within the species, you know, the area that the species live in. So apparently they can't cross I-5 because they're all either on one side or the other. So we've got a conservation site kind of smack dab in the middle here for the Tenino subspecies. We have ones kind of smack dab here in the middle of South Lacey for the Yelm species. And the Puget Sound Olympia one, Paca gopher, is here. That looks like off of Little Rock Road. Not sure where that one looks like. That would be east of Port, like past 93rd, and maybe a little bit north of 93rd. So they've got to mitigate. They've got to do mitigation for each of these in kind of the general center of that.
Interesting.
I will admit I don't know what RPA is. I haven't read all that part through, but my guess, I don't know what it is. But there's obviously a large prairie area. Maybe that might be what it is, like a recognized prairie area. Maybe that's probably something like that, where they know there's pocket gophers in these sections in here, and the rest of it is just kind of, that's what we do the recon for, right?
I think I have kind of a rookie question here. The Yelmensis and I'm mispronouncing all that, the tumuli, like what do those words mean within those areas?
That's the scientific subspecies name. I mean, someone like you're a biologist, you could do a better job at telling me Kinophyllum, you know, ordered, all that good stuff. But those are the subspecies of the Mazama Paca gopher.
Thank you.
And there is disagreement amongst biologists about the DNA distinctiveness of the subspecies. I'll put it that way. There are scientists on both sides of that argument, and there may not be as much difference in these subspecies as it appears. And the reason that that's important is because if their habitat is wider and larger, then you don't have to have an independent conservation site for each subspecies, right? You just have one. or you have one in multiple sites, right? That's fine too, but you don't have to carve out impacts. So what this is saying is any development in here that is a take and a take of habitat for the pocket gopher for the Tenino subspecies is going to end up being mitigated on this conservation site, right? And so if there's a take in here, they can't use OPG1 over on this side because it's completely different subspecies. And so what happens then if the site gets chewed up by use, you know, the 5 acres only goes so far, it's limited, right? And then if there's enough take throughout that subspecies area, then they got to amend the HCP and find another mitigation site. So when we come in here and we do a citywide HCP, which is almost going to be, you know, it's going to be city limits and the UGA. When we do that, we'll have to find a site that can be a receiving site for, you know, habitat credits, basically.
Right. So you have to have our own bank kind of within the city limits or UGA. Is that where it would have to be? Or it can't be like out by the Colvins or something. I know that already is one, but it would have to be within our area.
It would need to be within the subspecies catchment area. Still.
Okay, so anywhere in the subspecies.
Because the problem, like when Lacey goes and does their HCP, they may not have them. You know, they're urban, right? That's the whole problem. The whole problem is they're building on gopher mounds, and so you know there's kind of a challenge there. And I don't know the thresholds on all of that. Will, I don't know where the where the Fish and Wildlife Service allows you to do this stuff, but I know it's not constrained to your city limits because that's kind of counterproductive.
Yeah, right. Is it a public document? Can we get a copy of this?
Yeah, I believe. Let me double check that. I mean, let me double check that. I can't remember. I think it is a public document.
I think it'd be cool to look through it.
Let me see if there's anything else. It's probably worth. I mean, so here's a section drawing of kind of what they're doing. It's what you'd expect an electric company would be doing, right? They're putting out. They'll talk about it. You know, they're doing repairs, they're doing replacement, gas maintenance, electric maintenance, horizontal bores, tree maintenance, all of these activities that may impact these animals or their habitat. So I know you're not able to read this. Let me just try to find something decent to look at. Yeah, this is the conservation site I think drawing your attention to. This is that 5 acres I was talking about. So this is what they've done for the Tenino site that's off Old Highway 99, just saying that it's, you know, whether it's viable for a conservation site. So do we have anything else in here that's monitoring plan? It's not just the pocket gopher, it's also other prairie species. So the Taylor's checker spot butterfly is another listed species. Yeah, and I think this is kind of the takeaway, that the potential is very low for most individual projects at most sites, because you know they're in the shoulder of an existing road, right? That's predominantly what they're doing. They're doing trenching, and they've got pictures down here I was looking at earlier. If you get dizzy, just close your eyes. so that, they take photos, they're kind of inventorying their expected, if they're going to do a gas line replacement or a main update, they're kind of taking pictures. And so this is, it's a curb gutter sidewalk, asphalt or chip seal overlay. I mean, there's not a lot of gopher habitat. Even this one, Maytown Road, this one might have something. I mean, but you can see that they already had to, and we'll have to do this too. And we'll just look and see if we've actually figured out we'll have to do occasional gopher recons to see if there's mounds out there. But anyway, so that's a kind of an indication of what we would be doing on a smaller scale, right? Something a little more manageable for the city. And then based on what we would expect to see for development impact. So this is why they're doing it. They're doing it because they're gonna, there's expansion of roads and they run, they push off into the dirt. And instead of doing an HCP every time they have a project, they're just trying to do it for their service area, so they kind of get approval from the regulatory agencies to impact it, provided they run mitigation if they come across any mounds. They have all the sites set and ready to go. And as an aside, when they get these conservation sites set up, they have the ability to sell those credits, I believe, if they choose to other development entities, because it's an approved HCP conservation site. So, I mean, they're rolling the dice. There's a little bit of risk there if you sell all your credits to somebody, you may not have enough for yourself to do this type of trench excavation, for example. But I think that's available to them. Other questions?
Do you know how much pocket gopher credits are? How much the value of one credit is?
I don't.
I was just curious.
I could probably safely say it depends. I think it's
well, it depends on the quality of the habitat. I mean, obviously, but
well, I think it depends on also, like, it's a supply and demand thing, as far as I understand. They can sell them for whatever they want.
whatever they can get. Yeah, okay.
So if it's the last acre worth of credit and you've got 3 people at your door asking for it, I think they can, get what they want. But that is a guess. I don't know that to be always the case. They may set the credit as part of the program. I really don't know. No. All right. Anything else on this? Corey, you had something?
Yeah. I'm just conceptualizing the idea of a set aside in my mind. It's an area of ground where, or habitat where there already is these species that need to be protected, and then they set them aside to offset the taking from other places. Is that kind of the general idea?
Yeah, I haven't, I think that's in here. I think what they do for the site in order to get it approved, and in many cases they're setting it aside and sometimes even enhancing it, but I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't know that that's the case in this HCP, but yes, they're trying to find the best habitat for these species and set it aside forever, so it's always retained for that species.
Right.
And the more contiguous land they have, the better it is.
Right. With wetlands, usually, you can get a certain, it's usually ratios that get set based on the quality of the habitat you're going to disturb, kind of dictates how many acres of you can either do enhancement or, acquiring new prairie and preserving it is probably how it works. I guess that's how wetlands work. I assume it's pretty similar, but
I'm just thinking of like West Tenino. We've got,
yeah.
a pretty big expanse of gopher habitat out there. Would that be in the conversation to be leveraged for either our own habitat set-asides or maybe selling to other entities?
Well,
I think what Dan was saying was that it doesn't make a lot of sense to have an area set aside within the city limits, because that would be the area that you would be presumably developing. So you would want it to be outside of the city, unless the city wanted to set up its own bank and start slinging credits.
Yeah, my understanding, I guess, was that we'd have a hard time, anybody would have a hard time developing on that area
Yeah.
anyways because of the presence of those species.
Yeah.
Well, that's a chicken or egg argument. In our local area, the piece of ground that everybody and their damn brother has eyeballs on for a mitigation area is the parcel immediately north of Old 99 and south of the parcel that was sold to the equestrian guys and between Lemon Hill. So the largest, most right, and Dan's got it right. That's smack dab. That's in our city limits.
Don't give a planner a drawing tool. It's a bad idea. Most of the, this area up here, the Lemon Hill area, there's not expected to be any gophers up there,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
It's
Correct.
sloped, it's treed, it's not prairie. And there's also so this is kind of that equestrian site in the middle. Sort of goes like that.
Yeah. Good one.
And the box in here mostly doesn't have gophers anywhere where there's a building or there's pavement or some of those other things. There's potentially gophers elsewhere, and we know we know that there's gophers over here, right? This is
Right.
all the stuff. This is all the stuff that the state wants to buy. They want to buy all of. Here we go. We're now getting crazy. They want to buy all of this.
Right.
That's all that they're trying to acquire for a state park or a wildlife refuge or game sanctuary or whatever they end up calling it. And then at the same time using this for a prairie demonstration or a prairie conservation area, not just pocket gophers, but butterflies and vegetation plants, star asters and other things like that. So that's all in this, this portion. City limits is, boy, I don't have it right up in front of me, but it does include this section. I think city limits goes out to here. I'll say it's like that. Now it's really confusing.
Well, that's pretty accurate.
So Corey, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess it's just a thought about how we might be able to leverage that area for our own bank or it seems like an asset that maybe we have, but we don't own it, but just thinking out loud.
One of the things that HCP will do is figure out where we can expect to find gophers. And that's what this map is. This map is a soil type gopher, for soil preference. So they've looked at the soil types and they say, yeah, this is a highly preferred gopher soil, but that doesn't mean that they're there. So for example, if I can zoom in again, grab my pen. This is the ag park site. Almost. Well, it's more like this. Sorry, John. Because it's more like this one, I think.
Good enough.
So it's right smack dab in the middle of preferred soils, but we ran a recon on it. There's no gophers on the site, And part of that is because Scott Broom is invading the site, and I think the mile sand and gravel mining operation is kind of not necessarily super conducive to the gopher habitat. I don't think they like it, so they're making their way somewhere else. But so there is, I guess, Corey, there is land inside the city that is going to have pocket gophers, and then there's preferred soils that won't. And if it doesn't mean it can't be the conservation area. It just means you have to preserve it so that the gophers that are next to it can move into it, right? That's just kind of my understanding of how to do that.
They just need to follow the signs. You're on mute, Will.
Gopher habitat this way.
There you go.
So I think this is kind of good timing for us. I expect that we'll have a grant application in front of Fish and Wildlife in early September for our Tenino HCP. Our understanding is that when the monies are released for those types of activities, they just begin to fund those existing the grants that are kind of in their queue as funding is available. I don't really understand how the scoring works quite yet, but we want to get in line so that when the money's released, we aren't trying to do catch up.
Excellent.
So that's what I have on the pocket with this HCP for the PSE folks. I don't really see anything in here to comment. That's what they're asking for us is a comment. I'll read it, or I'll kind of glance through it again to see if I see anything. If it's good to be released to the group, we'll definitely do that.
Nice. Yeah.
So,
okay.
Good maps at least.
Yeah.
The only other thing I had was John and I can kind of go through this project list and just kind of comment on where things are at, if that sounds good.
Sure.
So I'll lead off. The infrastructure extension, Mike Marshall, our city engineer, Mike Marshall, called me today and said there's been a smaller planning group working on the correct route for the service lines to take on the Ag Park property. And we've kind of gotten bogged down. The discussion between the engineers and the contractor is now, okay, when we dig these trenches to lay out the service lines, we're going to have to import some backfill. I don't know, what the thought process was up to that point, but at the point where the contractor identified the requirement for backfill being hauled in off-site, the engineers are now in agreement with him. It's going to be required in some places, and the net result is going to be that in order to do the water lines the way we want to do the water lines, we may not be able to do the sewer main extension, and we may not be able to do the purple pipe extension. So they're still kind of figuring that out, but they are working on it. Barcott is trying to matriculate his schedule to fit us in. He's just busy as heck, and we'll hopefully get started on that here pretty quick.
And then related to that, both the EDC's two pieces, I think they're hiring for a Ag Park business park manager, something like that. Did you see that, John?
I didn't, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I think Aslan, the EDC Strategic Alliances Director, is looking for someone to help him recruit tenants and then manage the park when we get there.
Makes sense.
Let's see. Only thing else on this list under current planning, my rock pile, that's my mistake. I'll probably sign that tomorrow, John. I was looking at my schedule. I know Carl brought those by the city today, so I'll probably come over tomorrow and sign
Awesome.
that BLA.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything more on there's a gas station proposal for Scotty B's. I think I mentioned that.
That's like an official proposal that's been submitted?
They've gone through a pre-submittal meeting, and they're having a survey done right now. I expect a permit within a month or so.
So you think that that's going to go forward?
I don't know. I have to see what the site plan looks like, Will.
Yeah. It seems like it's going to make that parking lot a nightmare and also complicate our roundabout situation. And we also have 2 gas stations already.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's why I during the pre-sub, I said I can't give you a real good sense of the likelihood of this without really knowing where those property lines are at.
Right. Well, it's all one parcel now,
utilities
right?
in there too. Pardon me?
Yeah. Never mind. It's all one parcel now, so they're talking about splitting that off, I guess, obviously.
I think it's going to be it would be considered like a secondary use. So it's a gas station associated with the grocery store, kind of like.
Oh, I see. Like a Fred Meyer or something like that. I see.
Yeah, but they still have to meet all the exiting and circulation requirements, fire access, power, and that corner there is just, it's pretty tough. And legacy things that have happened for 30 or 40 years that are there, we're loath to kind of go in and make somebody move their building 10 feet because it happens to be a little bit too close to the right of way. But new uses, we get to apply, regular modern code, and so sometimes it's not as big as it looks. So when I told you about this last month or the month prior, but when I raised these issues, I said, parking, circulation, those issues have to be addressed because we got the grocery store in there and the restaurant in there, and those are both high trafficked uses.
Yeah.
So that's what that card lot facility is. Bowen lot split, that happened today. There's been quite a bit of development chatter about Lemon Hill. Back to that drawing I was making earlier, I believe Dr. Barnett, who's the owner of all that property, is a couple of the sites that are either under contract or getting close to closing. And I don't know what the logjam was in the previous years, other than I've heard that he wanted to sell it all as one big transaction, and he's gotten to the point, I think because of what's happening with the state and other folks interested in buying the big conservation piece, that he's willing to carve out all the other little pieces. There's lots of development interest in that, both for the Lemon Hill stuff up on the hill with the roads, and the stuff down on the bottom, kind of like southeast of the equestrian center.
Okay.
Corey, you know where I'm talking about? You look like you're trying to. Okay. Yeah.
I have the zoning map hanging on the wall right here. I'm just looking at it.
Yeah. So, well, just as a reminder, most of the calls have been, how do we do this? And West Tenino, as you know, requires a master plan. And the master plan language in the ordinance it's kind of soft, but it does require a transportation element and a utilities element, and a land use element. So they'd have to work out a way that was acceptable to the city to meet some of the design guidelines and some of the intents of that portion of the city.
If it's selling to multiple developers, would they have to coordinate their effort in a master plan, or no?
We'd make sure that the master plans are coordinated, so the developers wouldn't have to do it. So if you had the Lemon Hill and the stuff down on the flats, they could be going separately, but we would make sure that the master plans for the two are not at odds. floods and
I see.
fairly address the issues.
I see.
But that is a thing. If somebody comes in and does Lemon Hill and then the stuff down on the bottom just sits there for 2 or 3 years, then it'll have to come back later and match up with the Lemon Hill development.
Interesting.
So lots of chatter about it.
Yeah. All right.
That kind of concludes the update for the work program or things that are going on. Any questions for me?
What's the Johnson short plat? Oh, that's at the end of Central Street. Is that right? By the church. Is that one?
I believe you're correct.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have any questions.
It's sort of by the church. I don't know. It's on Park Avenue.
Oh, Park. Oh, that's the one. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's the one by Frank Anderson's old place. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. It is the Frank Anderson, the old Frank Anderson place. So four lot short plat, there are 2 lots there already. And the short plat, there's a private driveway, 2 lots in the back, 2 kind of on the side. I'll just zoom in and show you here real quick. And then we can be.
Thank you. I think looking at the maps are really helpful because I don't know all the little landmarks at times. So thank you.
This one's a little faster than pulling up the county's site, which is what I usually use. So it's right here. So it's like between Bogner and Silverton Street or Reynolds, really. So it's this section in here.
Yeah, that big vacant area.
It's not over that far, but I think it's this. That's pretty close. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
so
all clear now, I think.
Yeah. And so there's going to be a house here and a house here. So, like one here, and then, well, one here and one here. So it's pretty close to that. Oops. Anyway, you can see that's how the 4 are. There's 2 right next to each other, and then 2 on the other side, oriented the opposite direction, and then a driveway going in between with a little hammerhead at the end. We do have it with that BLA I was talking about is this stuff. So this stuff in here is going to be under development. There's 4 lots in here as well. This was just a boundary line adjustment because all the lots already existed. This is kind of a fun planner thing. At least I thought it was interesting. Like the lots went like that back in the day. Right, because they platted the city all at the same time. A lot of times that's how they do it. They just throw it down, and then the state highway comes through and punches they buy that land from you, but they let you keep the stuff on each side. So this is, you could probably get a house on there depending on how you do it. But the BLA, I found the BLA to be pretty complicated because of the state highway running through the middle of it, and there's multiple parcels in there. So as part of that BLA now, it's just gonna, it'll be this stuff down here, and then there's lot lines in between each of those. They'll all access off of Central. And then we expect at some point there to be a short plat development for this area to the south. So that's,
Yep. Are they going to extend Central or have an outlet on Sussex or anything like that, or is it
yeah,
just going to be dead end?
we're gonna have them punch Central all the way through to what's Eureka here or whatever this city road is, but not onto Sussex. We try not to do
Okay.
any more access
Yeah.
points on the state highway.
Oh, so that's a road right there. I see. I didn't
Yeah,
realize.
this is actually, even though it looks like a driveway for the church, this is actually a road.
Huh.
Again, that's kind of what happens when you plat the whole city all out at once. And this used to be, well, not this one. The one by Park used to be a road too on the back of that. This is
Oh
a
yeah,
road
that's
too.
yeah.
This
Why
is
is that
the road.
Washington? Is that what that is?
Yeah, Washington's supposed to go all the way through it, but I don't think the city's ever going to build that. There's really no
Yeah.
reason to.
Yeah.
So that these parcels kind of go to the back of that Washington right away.
I have a question about the plot that you were just looking near the highway. Where Eureka Street is, where it looks like it's the driveway right off the highway. Then you look on Park Avenue, it looks like a house with a driveway that is the other side of the road potentially. Is that how I'm seeing it?
What?
This guy?
Yeah. Does that kind
you're
of go
talking
to the person's
stuff under
property?
here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty common for people to kind of overdo certain things and kind of slide into the right of way. So what would happen is if the city wanted to put Eureka all the way through, then they would just go do it. And sometimes they'll give a homeowner a little bit of compensation for it, but most of the time they'll just say, hey, you've built your begonias in the right of way, and we got to put a road through here, and it's our right of way, and we'll survey it and show you that it's our right of way, but that's usually how that works.
Mm-hmm.
And what about the little piece of what looks like, it almost looks like it would be their property on the west side of that driveway that they have? Would you have to evaluate at that time? Yeah, who that belongs to?
I think no, I mean, I think this is the city's. My guess is they know that this is the city's, and they're just being a little liberal with where that right of way line is. And I don't know, by looking at this map and probably by even looking at the county map, exactly where that right of way would be. So
Yeah.
it may be barely into there, it might be maybe like that.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to be this way. This is very interesting, but it's off topic, and really all this what ifing at the back end of a planning meeting is not good business.
I think it's kind of like an educational moment more than anything, but whatever.
So it just depends. Something like that, the city would come in and do whatever they would need to do, and most of the time property owners comply.
Okay, well, interesting stuff. Can you go over to the MacArthur and Sussex property that we approved the lot split for, since we have the map up? I don't know if you heard that.
Let's see here, Arthur. That's it. So you see it there? It's these guys.
Ah.
Actually, it's There we go. There's a house underneath those trees.
Oh, I see.
I think that's right. Anyways, it's one of the two. That's where it's at.
Okay.
So that concludes everything I have.
All right, sounds good. Does anyone have any additional announcements that they want to bring up? Happenings about town? No? All right, well, with that, then we will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Yep, you too.
Bye.
See